you're instructed by your teachers. So I want us to start our session today. And I hope everybody can hear me well.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, so I want us to start our session today. So previously, during the sessions you've had, you've done oral literature with the other teachers. You looked at stylistic features in oral songs. You've done short forms in oral literature. Recently, you did poetry with Madame Kimani. And I hope you have done the assignments that were given last time. I hope you're done with the assignments. And so today I want us to focus on grammar. I want us to focus on grammar. And I hope you're not just listening, but you have somewhere to write.
Lakini unamjua Gaduku.
Can you? I can hear some mamas. I don't know where they are mamas. So I'm saying I hope you have somewhere to write, because English involves several activities: listening, writing, answering questions, and all that. So I said today we are doing grammar, and our topic is on verb phrases and adverb phrases. That's our topic today. That's what we're going to discuss and look at: verb phrases and adverb phrases.
Yeah.
So, and anytime, as I always tell students, anytime before you proceed with the lesson, make sure that you're set. Make sure that you're set to understand the lesson's objectives. Don't just come here to be there for the sake of being here. You have to keep in mind that you're here to learn something and to give focus to the objectives of the lesson. So by the end of the lesson, you should be able to make use of verb phrases and adverb phrases correctly in sentences. Should be able to make use of verb phrases and adverb phrases correctly in sentences. And so that's what I want us to look at. So we begin with the verb phrase. Verb phrases. What is a verb phrase? So verb phrase is what you're going to begin with. And once you're done with verb phrases, we move on to adverb phrases. So what is a verb phrase? That's the question. So to begin with, we need to define, I believe we all know what phrases are. I believe we all know what phrases are. So you need to understand or to remind yourselves what a phrase is. Anybody who can remind us what a phrase is? Before we proceed, what is a phrase? A volunteer to tell us what a phrase is. Yes? No one wants to participate. So I hope, and I want us to participate in this. We must, I can see so many people, and that is good. That is good. We are in for the lesson. That's good. So what is a phrase? Somebody to remind us what a phrase is. Basil, maybe I can see you. Basil. Yeah.
Yes.
What is a phrase?
It's a group of words in a particular statement.
Sorry?
A group of words in a statement.
A group of words in a statement, just that. Okay, good attempts.
Hello, Kate.
Yes.
You can allow them you can ask them to raise their hands so that you see who is raising, then you point out.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Yeah, so we are free to answer questions by raising hands, and then I'll pick up on. Yes, so we were told a phrase is a group of words in a statement. Anybody else who can attempt can raise their hands up. A phrase. Somebody else willing to attempt what a phrase is? And also remind ourselves about what verbs are. What's our phrases? First of all, we answer that. Okay. Nobody is willing to raise their hands? Yeah? Okay, fine. So okay.
There is Peter. There is Peter.
Okay. Did I unmute you, Peter? Peter, trying to unmute you. Peter. Can you answer? Proceed, Peter. Yes. You're not speaking? Onyango, can you unmute him?
He's already unmuted.
Okay, but he's not speaking, eh?
Ronald Shem is there. He can answer you.
Okay, Shem. Shem, go ahead.
A phrase is a small group of words standing together as a conceptual forming a clause.
Again, please.
It is a small group of words standing together as a conceptual unit, typically forming a component of a clause.
Very good. So as a conceptual unit. So a phrase, very good. So we proceed. So I want us to remind ourselves about what a phrase is so that you're able to identify verb phrases or make use of verb phrases. So he said, in other words, or in simpler words, he said, or he meant that a phrase is a group of words that are used together and do not express a complete meaning. He said they must be used together with other words to form a clause or a sentence. So a phrase is simply that group of words that simply does not express a complete idea or does not express a complete meaning. Or in other words, is dependent on other words in order to make a sentence or in order to express a complete idea. That is a phrase. Yeah. So for instance, if you talk about, what are you doing now? If you talk about at home, you know, a phrase such as at home or, you know, woke up, you know, in the morning, yeah, phrases such as in the morning, yeah, in the afternoon, on Monday, yeah. So those are simply words that do not express complete ideas, and they must be used together with other words to form complete sentences or to express meaning. Because if you say something like in the morning, so what about in the morning, you know? So you have to use that part of group of words with other words to form a complete sentence. So a phrase in simply does not express a complete meaning, and so has to be used with other words to form or to form a complete idea. So then verbs. So then ask yourself, I believe all of us know what verbs are. And verbs are doing words. Yes, those words that express action. Yeah, say, read, wash, watch, sing, spread, quarrel. So all those words are verbs. So that again, you ask yourself, what is a verb phrase? Can you be able to identify a verb phrase? Can you be able to use it in a sentence correctly? Yeah. So let us, so we need to understand or to get that a verb phrase is that part in a sentence that expresses an action. That part in a sentence that expresses an action. So a verb phrase is that part in a sentence that expresses an action or that indicates an action. Yeah. So in a sentence, you have to make use of that verb, which is going to form, so the verb or the part that is expressing an action is in a sentence is what forms a verb phrase. So for instance, in a sentence like, Sarah read the text. Sarah read the text. So let's think about that sentence. Sarah read the text. So in that sentence, the verb read. And that verb is what forms the verb phrase in that sentence. Sarah read the text. So the verb read is what forms the verb phrase in that sentence. And you can also have a sentence like, he is,
Whoa.
Ashley is neat. Yeah, let's think about that sentence. Ashley is neat. Yeah. So the verb is in that sentence. Remember in Form 1, we looked at two types of verbs. We looked at action verbs and stative verbs. In Form 1, we looked at action verbs and stative verbs. So action verbs are those verbs that express action or that show action. Literally the action, like Sarah read the book. Read, simply an action. But when you say Ashley is neat, is a stative verb. Remember we said there are two categories of verbs. We have action verbs and we have stative verbs. So stative verbs are those verbs we said that express states, a condition of something or somebody. So they are not active, they are simply expressing that state or condition of something. So when you say Ashley is neat, so is different from read in the both sentences, simply because read is expressing an action, whereas is expressing a state or a condition. But then those two verbs, remember, still function as main verbs in those sentences. Yeah. So we're talking about verb phrases. So verb phrases, we said, are those parts in sentences that indicate action. So the read, Sarah read the book. So read, simply that part of the sentence is the verb phrase. Is, Ashley is neat. Is in that sentence is the verb phrase. So verb phrase, simply that part that indicates an action in a sentence. So when you look at those two sentences, you realize that read is a one-word verb phrase. Remember we said a phrase can be a group of words, can be a word or a group of words that do not express a complete idea. So we say read is a one-word verb phrase. Ashley is neat is in the sentence is a one-word verb phrase. So another aspect that I want us to understand is that we can have a two-word verb phrase. We can have a two-word verb phrase. Jesse, yes?
Excuse me, Cha.
Where are you, Jesse?
In the definition, you have said that a verb phrase is the part of a sentence that expresses an action.
Yes.
And in the examples, is you said is a stative verb. It states,
yes.
does not. It's not action.
Yes.
And why do we say it's a verb phrase?
Yes. Okay, is in that sentence rather should be said to be indicating state because it's a stative verb. Okay. Yes, we said a verb phrase is that part of a sentence that indicates action. And we said, we looked at two categories of verbs. We have the action verbs and we have the stative verbs. So is in that sentence is a stative verb. Yeah, so yes, we can say it's expressing a state, but then again, it is still the verb in that sentence. It is still functioning as a main verb in that sentence, much as under the category of verbs, it is a stative verb, much as it's expressing a state. You know, Ashley is neat. You know, just okay. Are we? Yes.
Yeah, I'm getting you.
Yeah, all right. So for you'll also say, so other examples of stative verbs, you'll say maybe words like feel, seems, you know, he seems right. He seems right. So you say something, a statement like he seems right. Seems is not an action verb. It's simply a state or a condition. You know, he seems right or she seems right. So seems in that sentence, much as it's not an action verb, you will also say it is a verb phrase because it is the one that is expressing the state in that sentence, And in the larger picture, of course, is the type of is a stative verb. It's still a stative verb. So so we're talking about those are examples of one-word verb phrases in those sentences. So we can look at, so we can also have two-word verb phrases. We can have a two-word verb phrase. We can have a three-word verb phrase. And we can also have a four-word verb phrase. It depends with the choice of words you use in a sentence. So for the examples we gave, those are one-word verb phrases. So what about two-word verb phrases? So for instance, you may talk about, so we looked at auxiliary verbs because in these two-word, three-word, four-word verb phrases, what makes up these words are auxiliary verbs that are used together with the main verb in those sentences. They're the ones that form the verb phrases. So I said in a two-word verb phrase, in a three-word verb phrase, in a four-word verb phrase. The other words that are used in addition to the main verb are auxiliary verbs. And auxiliary verbs together with the main verb are the ones that form an adverb phrase. And in such instances, then you'll find that the verb phrase is made up of a number of words, different from what we've seen in the first two examples that we gave, where we had just one word, So I said we looked at auxiliary verbs, be it modal auxiliaries, be it primary auxiliaries that we've looked at before. So you can use such in sentences together with main verbs to form verb phrases. So can someone, for instance, give us an example of a sentence with an auxiliary verb or a helping verb and a main verb. Just a sentence with an auxiliary verb and a main verb. A simple sentence. Just a simple sentence with the helping verb and the main verb.
Excuse?
Yes?
Some student are you able to get me?
Yes. Ernest. Ernest, your hand is up. Okay, Bill.
Mary was cooking.
Bill, yes, go ahead.
Mary was cooking.
Yes, Mary was?
Cooking.
Good. Good. That's a good sentence. Mary was cooking. Before I comment on the same, let me have another sentence. Mary was cooking. We have Omwenga. Omwenga.
We are studying.
We are studying. Good. So you can note those two sentences down. Mary was cooking. Second, we are studying. Another sentence. Austin. Austin. Austin, go ahead. Austin, or I didn't unmute you. Yes, Austin. Okay, Ryan, go ahead.
Mark was dancing.
Sorry, Mark was?
Dancing.
Good. So we have those three sentences. So we have Mary was cooking. So in that sentence, if you're asked to identify the verb phrase, of course, we said a verb phrase is that part that indicates action. And we can have an action expressed in more than one word. So Mary was cooking. So was cooking is the verb phrase. So we have the use of auxiliary was and the main verb there being cooking. So was cooking, the whole of that phrase becomes the verb phrase. Mary was cooking. So was cooking becomes the verb phrase. So we've used, so that's a two-word, that's an example of a two-word verb phrase. The next sentence was, we are studying, yeah? We are studying. So when you look at that sentence, which is the part that is indicating the action that is happening? Are studying, are studying. It's expressing an action, a continuing action, yeah? Continuing action, are studying. So are studying is the verb phrase. So that's a two-word verb phrase. We have the auxiliary are and the main verb in that sentence being studying. So that sentence was, who is dancing? Somebody, Zach was dancing. So we have Zach was dancing. So again, that's a sentence with an example of a two-word verb phrase, which is was dancing. So was is an auxiliary, as we looked at, auxiliary verbs when we were in school, and then dancing is the main verb. So you don't just say that dancing, Zach was dancing. You don't just say that dancing is the verb phrase. No. The verb phrase, we said a phrase can be a word or a group of words. So both words, was dancing, is what gives us the verb phrase. So those are good examples in those sentences. So those are examples of a two-word verb phrase. We can have a verb phrase that is longer even than that, depending on the as many auxiliary verbs, yeah. So you can choose to use many of them before the main verb to form the verb phrase.
Excuse me,
Yes.
So is there anything
Ernest.
like yes? Is there anything like an adverb phrase?
Yes.
And what's the difference between an adverb and a verb phrase?
Yes. In fact, I don't know whether you were there when we were introducing the lesson.
I was.
Because when we were introducing the lesson, I said we have our objective. The objective of the lesson is for us to understand what a verb phrase is, as well as an adverb phrase. Okay?
Yes.
So I want us to finish with the verb phrase, and then we move on to the adverb phrase and see the difference. Okay?
Yes.
Yes. So that's what our lesson is about today. Okay. So we looked at examples of 2-word verb phrases. So we can have a 3-word verb phrase. For instance, who can use a modal auxiliary in a sentence? Who can use a modal auxiliary in a sentence so that you see if it will give us a 3-word verb phrase? A modal auxiliary in a sentence, modal. That we looked at before we went home, I believe. Modal auxiliary in a sentence so that we identify the verb phrase. We know what modal auxiliaries are. Yes, Vincent?
I will come tomorrow. I shall come tomorrow.
Okay, I shall come tomorrow. Good, that's a good sentence. So please help us identify the verb phrase in your sentence, Vincent.
Shall come.
Good, shall come is the verb phrase in that sentence. Good. So in that case, we have the modal shall, the modal auxiliary shall, that is helping complete the meaning of the main verb come. So shall come becomes the verb phrase. Good. Anybody to attempt to make a sentence with a 3-word verb phrase or a 4-word verb phrase? Of course, what comes before the main verb should be the auxiliaries. An attempt to make a sentence using more than Stephen.
I will be going to work in the morning.
Right. I will be going to work.
In the morning.
In the morning. So help us identify the verb phrase.
Will be coming.
Will
be going.
Good, very good. So will be going is the verb phrase, correct? So those are, a number of words making up that verb phrase. We have, no, please go. We have wisdom. Give us another sentence. Wisdom.
I have been doing well.
I have been doing well. Help us identify the verb phrase.
Have been doing.
Good, correct. Yes, so we are getting it right. So that's simply about verb phrases. Yeah. So it depends with the number of auxiliaries you need to use before the main verb to come up with a verb phrase all together. So you may choose to come up with a 1-word verb phrase, 2 or 3, 4, depending on the number of auxiliaries you choose to use in a verb phrase. So mainly that is about verb phrases.
What's happening?
What's not happening?
Just still there. Omwenga, how are you?
Uko na swali?
Meet.
Uliza.
Whoever is calling me to stop calling me. Anyone?
Anyone?
Yes, Omwenga. Anybody? Lewis
I
Mburu.
always stop calling my name.
Lewis Mburu. Lewis bado kwa dini yangu ya Ndunya na Smoky.
Take you.
Sad for you.
Tume hiyo pesa mjumbe na pesa msee. Give us more sentences.
30 sentences.
That's
So I'm sorry for that. So sorry for that. Sorry for that. So lights here went off. That's why I was away for some minutes. So I'm sorry for that. So we proceed. A minute, a minute. A minute. So we're talking about verb phrases. I'm sorry for that. A minute. So now, okay. So we're talking about verb phrases, and we said, so we said simply there are those parts in a sentence that express an action, and we have given examples. And I'm glad we understood that. So I want us to move on to the adverb phrase. Adverb phrase. So remember that was our second objective of the lesson. We must be able to use adverb phrases in a sentence correctly. So who can tell us? So before we move on to adverb phrases, we need to understand the work of adverbs. Can we remind ourselves about adverbs, or what are adverb phrases? Somebody to tell us what an adverb is. We have somebody raising. Bill. Yes, go ahead, Bill. Bill, go ahead. Bill?
There are words that talk more about verbs.
Yes, an adverb is a word that gives more information about a verb. Yes, only about a verb. That is correct, that is correct. Any other attempts? Said words that give more information about verbs. Any other attempts? Though that is correct, but you can have more insights. Yes. Anybody else willing to speak to us? Come on, raise your hands. We need to hear you. We need to see you active here. Brian. Let me give a more specific one. I can see Bethwell. Bethwell, what are adverbs? Bethwell, what are adverbs? Yes. Bethwell? Okay, it's okay, so you can move on. Good, so adverbs are words that give more information about verbs. So they give more information about verbs. They could also give more information about adjectives, and they could also give more information about adverbs, other adverbs. So an adverb is a word that gives more information about a verb, an adjective, or an adverb in that sentence, in whichever sentence it is being used. So they not only give information about verbs in sentences, but could also give information about adjectives in those sentences, as well as adverbs, other adverbs in those sentences. So then if we reminded ourselves what adverbs are, then what is an adverb phrase? So then an adverb phrase is that part in a sentence that gives or that functions as or that gives more information about a verb. So in a sentence, an adverb phrase should express or should give more information about a verb in that sentence, an adjective in that sentence, or another adverb in that sentence. Yeah, so that is how you will be able to identify an adverb phrase. And so it's different from a verb phrase in that a verb phrase is that part of a sentence that indicates action in a sentence. Yeah, whereas an adverb phrase is that part of a sentence that is expressing information about a verb, an adverb, or an adjective in a sentence. So we're going to look at examples. Adverbs. So we need someone to just give us an example of a sentence making use of an adverb. Then we see if we can be able to identify an adverb phrase in that sentence. Somebody? Somebody? Yes, just an example of a sentence making use of an adverb so that you identify the adverb phrase. Somebody, an example of just a simple sentence. Use an adverb in a sentence. And we see if you can be able to identify the adverb phrase in that sentence. Gerald Mwoki. Gerald. Gerald, give us a sentence, a minute. Gerald, I'm waiting for you. Give us a sentence using, that has made use of an adverb. Just make use of an adverb in a sentence. Should I unmute you? Unmute you, Gerald. Okay, go ahead. You have no idea? Okay. Huh?
I have one.
Okay.
An adverb in a sentence.
Yes, make use of an adverb in a sentence.
She runs fast.
Yes.
She runs fast.
Identify for us the adverb in that sentence.
The adverb is fast.
Good. Yes. So that's a good example. So she runs fast. So fast is the adverb in that sentence. And of course, forms the adverb phrase in that sentence. So if you're asked to identify the adverb phrase in that sentence, it's simply fast. Yeah, so that's an example of a one-word adverb phrase. Bill, your hand is up.
Anna baked well.
Sorry?
Anna baked well.
All right. Yes, Anna baked well. Okay, good. Identify for us the adverb in that sentence. Well, the adverb phrase, rather. The adverb phrase.
Baked well.
Sorry?
Baked well.
Baked well. Do you think he's right? The adverb phrase he said is baked well. I want to say your sentence is correct, but you wrongly identified the adverb phrase. Why? Can somebody tell us why he wrongly identified the adverb phrase and identify for us correctly? Somebody to correct that? Somebody correct that and identify for us the adverb phrase there. Yes. Okay. Okay. So when you say he baked well, remember the adverb in that sentence is well. That's an adverb of manner. How did he bake? He baked well. So well is the adverb in that sentence. And of course, that is what forms the adverb phrase. Why are you identifying baked as an adverb phrase, as part of the adverb phrase? It is not, because baked is the verb in that sentence. So if you identified baked, so if you are to identify the verb phrase in that sentence, baked would be the verb phrase. But in this case, you're identifying the adverb phrase. So well should be the adverb phrase. So just that's just an example of a one-word adverb phrase, well. Remember we looked at, just before we give more examples, we looked at adverbs, types of adverbs in, I think, yeah, should be earlier topics in Form 2 or amongst the last topics in Form 1. Types of adverbs. Who can remind us the types of adverbs that he mentioned? Types of adverbs. Types of adverbs. Let's mention them. Let's mention them. Yes, I can see somebody to give us all of them. Gashara. There's Gashara. Gashara, give us the types of adverbs. I think I did unmute you.
Adverbs of place.
Yes.
Adverbs of time.
Good.
Adverbs of frequency.
Good.
Adverbs of degree.
Good.
Yes.
You left one, adverbs of manner. Did you mention that?
No, I forgot that one. Adverbs of manner.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. So you have 5 types of adverbs. And so you need to, of course, have that information with you so that if you are identifying an adverb phrase, you know, right away, you will know that this word in this sentence is an adverb and it is giving more information about this verb or this adjective or this other adverb in this sentence. So that is good. So for instance, he baked well. So well is an adverb of manner. And so if you're identifying the adverb phrase, you simply identify that adverb itself. That is the phrase, that is the adverb phrase, and not baked well. So if you identify baked well, then you mix up both of them because baked is a verb, well is an adverb. Yeah. So we said just as we have a one-word verb phrase, we can also have a two-word, just as we have one-word verb phrase, two-word verb phrase, three-word verb phrase, we can also have a one-word adverb phrase, a two-word adverb phrase, etc, etc, etc. So it depends again with the words that are being used in that adverb phrase. So since we've given an example, so say something like the speech, look at this sentence, the speech was read audibly. The speech was read audibly. So identify the adverb phrase in that sentence. So audibly is the adverb phrase because it's simply giving more information about how the speech was read. So you do not say that was read audibly is the adverb phrase, then you will be wrong. So audibly is the adverb phrase, yeah? Another sentence like, I talked to them frankly. I talked to them frankly. So frankly is the adverb phrase in that sentence. Frankly is the adverb phrase in that sentence. So it's simply giving more information about how I talk to them. Good. So you can have a two-word adverb phrase. We can have a three-word adverb phrase. So an example of a two-word adverb phrase is when we bring in, for instance, in a sentence, something called intensifiers. Intensifiers. So we can have a two-word adverb phrase, and in this case, one of the adverb in that sentence will be functioning as an intensifier. Intensifier, I-N-T-E-N-S-I-F-I-E-R, intensifier. So how is that? So intensifiers, so this is another aspect, I believe. So intensifiers, in other words, are adverbs of degree. So I said we can have a two-word adverb phrase, where in that case, one of the adverb will be functioning as an intensifier, or two of the adverbs will be functioning as intensifiers. Intensifiers to mean those adverbs will be talking about the main adverbs in that sentence. They will be giving more information about the main adverbs, or rather the main adverb in that sentence. So an intensifier is an adverb that talks about another adverb in a sentence. And an intensifier is also known as an adverb of degree. It's also known as an adverb of degree. So for instance, in a sentence, you may choose to say, the Form 2 students learn quite often. Yeah, the Form 2 students learn quite often. Remember, we don't have a word such as oftenly. That is very wrong. We do not say oftenly, but rather often. So when you have a statement like the Form 2 students learn quite often, so which is the adverb phrase in that sentence? Which is the adverb phrase in that sentence? The Form 2 students learn quite often. Yeah. You can also have another sentence such as he works extremely hard. He works extremely hard. He works extremely hard. So let's go to the first sentence. Form 2 students learn quite often. So quite often is the adverb phrase. Remember, that is a part of the sentence that is expressing, or that is giving more information about the verb learn. Quite often. So quite often is the adverb phrase. And in that case, that phrase is giving more information about the verb learn in that sentence. So the phrase is made up of these two words, quite often. So quite is the intensifier in that sentence. Quite is the intensifier in that sentence, or in simpler words, is the adverb of degree in that sentence. Yeah, quite often. Quite often. So that is the adverb phrase. That is the adverb phrase. So quite is giving more information about how much, how regularly do you learn? Quite, quite, or very often, so often. So quite often is the adverb phrase. Quite often is the adverb phrase. So when you say she works extremely hard, Wamboi works extremely hard. Wamboi works extremely hard. So extremely hard, again, is the adverb phrase, because it is, it is defining how Wamboi works. It is defining how Wamboi works. And the intensifier in that sentence is extremely, because yeah, it is the adverb of degree in that sentence. Remember, we said intensifiers are also known as adverbs of degree. So extremely hard. So extremely is is what is giving more information about, you know, how hard does she work? How hard does she work? She works very hard. She works extremely hard. She works. Yeah. So intensifiers are those adverbs that give information about other adverbs in a sentence, and they are part of the adverb phrase. They are part of the adverb phrase. So that's an example. Those are examples of two-word adverb phrases. An example of a two-word adverb phrase, rather. So we can also have a three-word adverb phrase, a four-word adverb phrase, depending on what comes before the main adverb. Yeah. And so this word that's coming before the main adverb is what I'm calling the intensifier. You know, it's talking about the degree to which the main adverb in that sentence is functioning. Yeah. So if you say another sentence like, she speaks rather too softly. Yeah, she speaks rather too softly. She speaks rather too softly. Who can identify for us the adverb phrase in that sentence? She speaks rather too softly. Rather too softly. Anybody can help us identify the adverb phrase in that sentence? Yes. She speaks rather too softly. Any attempts? Somebody to help us identify the adverb phrase in that sentence? Yes, somebody? Okay, so nobody. All right, so you can proceed, it's okay. Anybody? Okay, Ernest, let me unmute you.
Rather too softly.
Yes, good. So rather too softly, very correct, is the adverb phrase. That is right. Rather too softly is the adverb phrase. That is very correct. So again, that's a three-word adverb phrase. Yeah. So of course, we said in a two-word adverb phrase, in a three-word adverb phrase, what comes before the main adverb is what you are calling the intensifiers or the adverbs of degree. I hope we've understood what intensifiers are. In simpler words, they are adverbs of degree. Yeah, they're the ones that are coming before the main adverb to form an adverb phrase all together. And when you look at those sentences that we've given, you will realize that the sentences cannot function without the main adverb. Yeah. So they can't function with the intensifiers only. In most cases, if not all, they'll not function with the intensifiers only. For instance, you cannot say that the Form 2 students learn quite. Remember that sentence we gave? The Form 2 students learn quite often. So you cannot say, remember we said that the intensifier is quite, and the main adverb is often in that sentence. But both of them form the adverb phrase. So you cannot say that the Form 2 students learn quite. You know, that sentence is not complete, or rather will not express meaning in that way. So the intensifier has to be used with the main adverb in that sentence, which is often, to form a complete sentence. Yeah, and all the other examples that we have given. So you need to, be able to make use of, can we have more sentences? Maybe we can have more sentences from us, making use of adverb phrases. Whether one word, two words. Let's have attempts. Just make sentences, 2, 3. Any hand up? Oh, we have Carissa. Carissa, go ahead.
Yes. The girl walked to school very fast.
Good. That's a good sentence. It's a grammatical sentence. The girl walked to school very fast. Identify for us the adverb phrase.
Very fast.
All right, good. That is good. Very fast is the adverb phrase. Another person. Oh, who is this? Peter. Oh, Peter. I did unmute you. Go ahead.
He runs very quickly indeed.
Identify for us the adverb phrase.
Very quickly indeed.
Good. Somebody else? Who is this connecting? Yes, go ahead. Yes. Okay, there was no other hand up. Let's give more sentences. Making use of adverb phrases. You can be writing them down. You can write them down, rather. Write them down so that we sample them. Moses query. Bill has talked before. Who are these others? I hope you are not just following. You know, Bill, go ahead.
Jane works very hard.
Yes, Jane works very hard. Identify for us the verb phrase. The adverb phrase.
Very hard.
Identify for us the verb phrase in that sentence.
The verb or adverb phrase.
The verb phrase also. Yes, you did well by identifying the adverb phrase. You talked about very hard. Which is the verb phrase in that sentence?
There isn't.
There isn't?
I don't think there is any verb phrase.
There's no verb phrase. Come up. Give us the sentence again.
Jane works very hard.
Jane works very hard.
Yes.
So you said very hard is the adverb phrase.
Yes.
Which is very correct. Then I asked you in the same sentence to identify for us the verb phrase. Mburu. Okay, good. Bill, that was a good attempt. Let's see. Mburu, go ahead.
The verb phrase is worked.
Very good. Yes, so the verb phrase in the same sentence is worked, whether you used worked or works. So that is the verb phrase. Okay, Bill, are you together, Bill? Let me see. Bill?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes. So why you said there's no verb phrase? I don't know why you hadn't identified it, but so worked or works, or the word that you used is the verb phrase. So you should be able to differentiate between a verb phrase and an adverb phrase. So I still can see hands up. Moses?
Yes, the movie was rather too boring.
Okay, the movie was rather too boring.
Yes, the adverb phrase is rather too boring, and the verb phrase is boring.
The movie was rather
too boring.
Too boring. Okay. Yes. So rather too boring is the adverb.
Right.
Yes.
The verb phrase think too boring.
And the verb phrase in that sentence, can you help identify?
It thinks too boring.
Too boring.
Yes.
Are you sure?
Or is it only boring?
Who can assist that case? The movie was rather too boring. Let's see. Vincent. What do you think, Vincent?
I think the verb phrase is was.
You think the verb phrase is was? Okay,
Yes.
and the adverb phrase?
The rather too boring.
Good. Okay, let's listen to somebody else. Okay, I'll come back to you. We have, yes, Gashara, go ahead. Gashara, go ahead. Okay.
Was.
Was is the verb phrase?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let's hear Njoroge. Njoroge, what do you think? Okay, Njoroge is no longer. Okay, Momo, what do you think?
Was is the verb phrase and rather too boring is the adverb phrase.
Good. So very good. So in that sentence, the movie was rather too boring. So was is the verb phrase. Was is the verb phrase. Yeah. Rather too boring is the adverb phrase. That is good. So was is the verb phrase because in that case, it's acting as the main verb. Much is it's the auxiliary. Much as it's the auxiliary, it's acting as the main verb. How, and then rather too boring is simply giving more information about that verb was. How was the movie? How was the movie? And that's why it's the adverb phrase, the whole of it, rather too boring. Somebody might question why boring is an adverb, or rather so it's part of the rather too boring. It's part of that adverb phrase, rather too boring. It's part of that adverb phrase, so that it makes a complete phrase, yeah, or it adds up the phrase all together. So can you have more examples? More examples? Okay. Do you have you written down more examples? Okay. So if there are no, then as I said when we were beginning, that's simply about adverb phrases. I mean, so that's simply about adverb phrases. So as long as you are able to identify what part is expressing, or is giving more information about the verb in this sentence, is it giving more information about an adjective or another adverb, that is intensifier, in other words. So that's how we form adverb phrases. And I believe we also understood how we form verb phrases, simply the part that is expressing an action, and the action could be expressed in more than one word. That means we have auxiliaries as well as main verbs to form the verb phrase. So ideally, that's what I wanted us to get for the session. That is, understand what a verb phrase is as well as an adverb phrase. That is what I wanted us to get for the lesson. I believe, so what I want us to do, unless there's a question, do you have a question? Do you have a question on the same before I conclude? Any question on the same? I don't see any hand up. No hands up. So, okay. Yes? question? Okay, so if there's no question, I believe we have books with us. I would like us to attempt the exercises in our books. That is the Excelling Book 2. Excelling Book 2, go to all the to where we have the verb phrases and adverb phrases and attempt the exercises. So the work will be given in respective groups. So look forward to, so make sure you look out for the assignment on what you've learned today. Yeah, make sure you look out for the assignments. And as I always say, for English, you don't just listen and keep away your books. Just have to practice, 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 be it literature or grammar or all the sections that we have in our syllabus. You just have to keep referring back to what you've done. You know, don't just keep away those books, because you might find that next time you will not even remember what a verb phrase is or what a verb adverb, what an adverb phrase is. But if you keep, you know, if you keep referring to what you've done, doing more exercises by your own, you know, just being initiative on the same. Yeah. So assignment will be sent in your respective groups. So look out for that. And since there's no question, I'll wish to stop and ask you to keep up with the good work. Those of us who logged in for the session, good job, keep up. Just for the time you're home, you know, of course, I know we have quite some time to just be, you know, watch those movies and all. But then again, as much as you find time to relax, also find time to, you know, grow yourself, whether it's, you know, academically, spiritually, mentally, you know, just be sane. And of course, keep the focus. That is academics. That is what the focus is for now. Yeah. You just have to be at par with what the teachers are doing, what the teachers are giving you. Just don't give up. Yeah. You have to keep pushing, because that is the stage you are in and you just have to follow. Okay. So otherwise, I wish you well. I wish you all the best as you proceed with your studies, and if as you continue being home, keep safe and have a good time. So until we meet next time.
You too.
Okay, goodbye.